In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where the stars were few and the space was cold, a new species made its presence known. They called themselves humans. At first, no one took them seriously. They were a young species, just starting to spread out into space. Their technology was not as advanced as the great powers of the galaxy. But humans had something no one else expected: an unpredictable spirit that made them dangerous. It all began when a human warship, the U.S. Ironclad, entered the space of the Confederation of Clarks, a massive empire that controlled many star systems. The Confederation had never heard of humans, and they did not care. They saw the Ironclad as just another small, weak ship, but the humans aboard the Ironclad had a different idea. The commander of the Ironclad, Captain Riker, was not afraid of the Confederation. He had led his crew through countless battles, and he had learned something important: never underestimate an opponent. When the Ironclad came into contact with a Clark warship much larger and stronger, the Confederation ship's commander laughed at the human ship, thinking it would be an easy victory. But the humans were clever. They knew their ship inside and out, and they knew how to use it in ways that no one expected. They had developed a strategy based on surprise, not strength. Captain Riker ordered his crew to use the ship's smaller size to their advantage, hiding in the shadows of nearby asteroids and striking only when they had the perfect shot. The Clark ship, confident in its power, didn't even see it coming. A series of well-placed shots from the Ironclad crippled the Clark warship's engines, and before they knew it, the Ironclad had destroyed their enemy with a single precise strike. The Confederation ship was left floating in space, a silent wreck. And Captain Riker, he and his crew had survived without a single casualty. Word of the humans' victory spread quickly through the galaxy. The Confederation, with its vast fleets and advanced technology, could not understand how a small human ship had defeated them so easily. How could a species so young, so untested, have such power? They had underestimated humanity, and now they realized their mistake. The Confederation began to worry. Who were these humans, and what were they capable of? But for humans, it was only the beginning. Captain Riker looked out from the bridge of the Ironclad and smiled. They had sent a message to the galaxy: never underestimate humanity. The Confederation would soon learn that this was just the first of many surprises. After the surprising victory of the U.S. Ironclad, the galaxy was shaken. The Confederation of Clarks, the largest and most powerful empire in the galaxy, was especially disturbed. They had never expected to lose to a small, unknown species like the humans. It made them nervous, and nervous leaders were dangerous. The Confederation quickly gathered its best military minds. They knew they could not allow this human victory to stand. If word spread, more and more species might start believing that humanity could challenge the Confederation. That would be a disaster. The Clarks couldn't afford to look weak. The leader of the Confederation, Emperor Zoreth, ordered a special envoy to be sent to Earth. The emissary was to deliver an ultimatum: surrender to the Confederation or face complete destruction. Zoreth believed that humans, being a new and small species, would be scared and give in. It was the same tactic they had used with weaker species for centuries, and it always worked. But he was wrong. The human government, known as the Earth Council, was thrown into chaos when they received the message. The Council wasn't sure if they should trust the reports or if the Confederation would actually come to Earth. But Captain Riker, still a hero after his victory in space, was ready. He knew that if the Confederation came to Earth, they wouldn't stop until humanity was destroyed. Humans don't bow down to threats, Riker said, looking around the room. We've fought for survival our whole history. This is no different. The Council decided to reject the Confederation's offer. Earth would not surrender. Instead, they began preparing for the worst: war. Riker's experience in battle made him the perfect person to lead Earth's forces. He was given control of a small fleet of human warships, but his fleet was no match for the Confederation's mighty forces. Still, Riker wasn't worried. He knew the Confederation would underestimate humanity again, and when they did, the humans would strike. The Confederation, meanwhile, was confident in their power. They couldn't understand why humanity was refusing to surrender. They saw humans as weak, primitive beings, not worthy of standing up to their might. So they prepared to send a fleet to Earth to force them into submission. Zorath knew it would be an easy victory, but he still gave orders to make sure the humans were utterly crushed. As the Confederation warships approached Earth's borders, tension grew. The people of Earth had never faced such an enemy before. But even in the face of certain death, humans didn't give up. Captain Riker, standing at the front of Earth's forces, looked out at the vast fleet of Confederation ships in the distance. He didn't feel fear. He felt something else. He felt the power of humanity's will to survive. "Let them come," Riker muttered to himself. "They'll learn why they should never have underestimated us." The stage was set for a battle that would decide the future of humanity and the galaxy. As the Confederate fleet moved closer to Earth, the galaxy held its breath. Everyone knew that the Confederation was a powerful force. They controlled vast stretches of space, their warships were nearly invincible, and their soldiers were feared across the stars. But humanity had already shown that it was not like any species the Confederation had ever faced. Captain Riker stood on the bridge of the U.S. ironclad, staring out into space. He knew the coming battle would be the hardest challenge Earth had ever faced. The Confederation was sending everything they had, but Riker was not worried. He had learned something important during his first battle with the Clarks. Humans didn't fight like other species. While the Confederation relied on their superior technology and strength, humans relied on their creativity, their unpredictability, and their fierce will to survive. "What are we up against, Riker?" asked Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, standing beside him. Her face was tense, but her eyes were full of determination. "The Confederation has a fleet of 30 ships," Riker replied, his voice calm. "Each one is bigger and stronger than anything we've faced before. They'll think we're easy targets." "So, what's the plan?" Hayes asked. Riker smiled. "We're going to make sure they never see it coming." The human fleet, although small in number, was far from helpless. Riker had learned the best way to fight the Clarks was not to fight them head-on. Their technology was advanced, but it wasn't perfect. The Confederation relied too much on their size and firepower, leaving them vulnerable in unexpected situations. That's where humanity's unpredictability came in. Riker ordered his fleet to scatter and hide in the asteroid fields surrounding Earth's face. The Confederation would never expect humans to fight like this, using the natural obstacles of space to mask their movements. The Confederation's fleet, confident in their strength, ignored the possibility of an ambush. They moved in a straight line, heading directly toward Earth, their guns charged and ready to destroy anything in their path. The moment the Confederation ships entered the asteroid field, Riker gave the signal. The human ships attacked from all sides. The Confederation, not used to this kind of fighting, struggled to adjust. Human ships darted in and out of the asteroid clusters, using their speed and smaller size to their advantage. The ironclad fired its weapons in quick, precise bursts, hitting weak points in the larger Clark ships that the Confederation hadn't even considered. Confederation commanders were caught off guard. They tried to counterattack, but the humans were always one step ahead, striking from unexpected angles. The ironclad led the charge, using hit-and-run tactics to wear down the massive Confederate warships. The Confederation's ships were powerful, but they weren't designed for this kind of warfare. Fast, unpredictable, and relentless. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Confederation's overconfidence was their downfall. They thought they could crush humanity with a simple show of strength, but they were learning the hard way that humans didn't follow the rules of war that everyone else did. Humans were willing to fight dirty, take risks, and do whatever it took to survive. And in doing so, they were slowly turning the tide of the battle in their favor. The Confederate fleet, now disoriented and suffering heavy losses, began to retreat. They had underestimated the power of humanity's unpredictability. Riker watched as the Confederate ships turned and fled, their retreat a clear sign of their fear. "It's not over yet," Riker said, his voice steady. "But they've learned something important today." "They've learned to fear us," Hayes replied, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. The Confederate fleet had been driven back, but humanity knew the war was far from over. Captain Riker and his crew had only won a small battle, but it was a victory with a big message. The Confederation was not invincible. The next challenge was even greater: how to fight an entire empire that controlled so much of the galaxy. Back on Earth, the Earth Council was busy making plans. They knew that even though the humans had won a battle, the Confederation would strike back with even more force. They had to be ready. Captain Riker, still in command of the U.S. Ironclad, had a plan. The Confederation was big, and they had vast resources. But Riker believed that humanity could win this war not by matching the Confederation's power, but by using the one thing the Confederation couldn't predict: their own people. Humans had something that no other species in the galaxy seemed to have: an unstoppable will to survive, no matter the cost. Riker gathered his officers in the briefing room. "We've beaten them once," he said, his voice firm. "Now we need to make them realize that they can't win against us. We're going to hit them where it hurts the most." "Guerrilla tactics?" asked Lieutenant Hayes. Riker nodded. "Exactly. We'll strike fast, hit their supply lines, and disappear before they even know we're there. The Confederation depends on its size, its power, and its control over entire star systems. If we can take out their supply bases, their command centers, and their resources, we'll cripple their ability to fight." The plan was dangerous. The Confederation had some of the most powerful warships in the galaxy, and they were everywhere. But Riker knew that humanity's strength was in its ability to adapt and outthink its enemies. And if they could move fast, strike hard, and disappear without a trace, the Confederation wouldn't be able to keep up. Over the next few weeks, small human ships, including the Ironclad, launched a series of hit-and-run attacks on Confederate supply depots, fuel stations, and communication relays. The human forces were outnumbered and outgunned, but they were relentless. They used everything at their disposal: old technology, hidden bases, and their knowledge of the galaxy's hidden corners. Humans were masters of guerrilla warfare, and the Confederation didn't know how to deal with it. On one mission, Riker led a group of human ships to destroy a Confederate supply depot on a remote moon. The mission was simple: hit fast and get out. But things didn't go as planned. The human fleet was spotted before they could strike. The Confederation sent reinforcements, and Riker's forces found themselves trapped on the moon. The odds were stacked against them. But Riker refused to back down. He ordered his ships to fight through the chaos, using the rocky surface of the moon as cover. The Confederation ships were bigger, but the humans knew how to fight in tight spaces. Using quick thinking, Riker ordered a series of decoys and feints, tricking the Confederation into attacking the wrong targets. The humans pulled off the impossible. They destroyed the supply depot, and most of their forces managed to escape without losing a single ship. The success of the mission was a huge blow to the Confederation. They had underestimated the humans again. The Confederation had thought that sheer numbers and power would win the war, but they had not counted on humanity's ability to keep fighting, no matter the odds. "We don't give up," Riker said to his crew after the mission. "That's what makes us different. That's why we'll win." The Confederation was furious. Humanity had destroyed their supply lines, crippled their communication networks, and humiliated their fleets. It was something no species had ever done before. The Confederation had always won wars through sheer strength, but humans were proving to be different. Emperor Zoreth sat in his grand war chamber, his cold eyes studying the reports of recent losses. "How is it possible?" he growled. "They are weaker, they are fewer, and yet they keep winning." His top generals stood nervously before him. One of them, Admiral Vornak, cleared his throat. Your Majesty, the humans do not fight like other species. They do not face us in open battle. They hide in asteroid fields, attack from the shadows, and disappear before we can strike back. Zoreth slammed his fist on the table. Cowards. They refuse to fight honorably. Perhaps, Vornak admitted, but it is working. If we do not change our strategy, we risk losing this war. The Emperor's rage cooled as he thought. He had to crush humanity before their influence spread. But how? Meanwhile, Captain Riker and his fleet had returned to Earth for repairs. The war had taken its toll. Many pilots were exhausted, and ships were running low on supplies. But morale was high. For the first time, humanity was proving that it was not just another weak species waiting to be conquered. As Riker stood in the command center, watching a holographic map of the galaxy, Lieutenant Hayes walked up beside him. "The Confederation is getting desperate," she said. "We've hit them hard, but they're adapting. Their fleets are moving in unpredictable ways. They're trying to trap us." Riker nodded. "That means they're scared. But it also means we need to be careful. If they're changing tactics, we have to stay ahead." Just then, an alarm blared across the command center. A warning message flashed on the screen. "Incoming transmission. Confederation High Command." Riker and the officers exchanged confused looks. The Confederation had never contacted them directly before. With a deep breath, Riker pressed the button to accept the message. A holographic image of Admiral Vornak appeared, his reptilian face twisted in frustration. "Humans," he spat, "you have proven to be more troublesome than we expected. But your luck has run out." Riker folded his arms. "I don't believe in luck, Admiral. Only skill." Vornak sneered. "Then your skill will soon be tested. We have found your hidden bases. Our forces are already moving in. Soon, you will have nowhere to run." The transmission cut out, and silence filled the room. The officers stared at Riker, waiting for his response. He exhaled slowly and then smirked. "They think they found us. Good. Let's make them regret it." The war was about to reach its most dangerous phase. Humanity had pushed the Confederation to the edge, and now the real battle was about to begin. The warning from Admiral Vornak echoed in Captain Riker's mind. The Confederation had found humanity's secret bases, and now they were coming in full force. The humans had been winning battles with speed and surprise, but now they would have to defend. And defending against the Confederation was no easy task. Inside the Earth Council's war room, the top military leaders gathered. A large holographic map of space floated above the table, showing the locations of hidden human bases. Red markers appeared, showing the movement of the Confederation's fleet. "They're attacking 3 of our bases at the same time," said General Carter, his voice serious. "We don't have enough ships to defend them all." Riker studied the map. "That's exactly what they want. They're trying to split our forces. If we spread too thin, they'll crush us one by one." Lieutenant Hayes nodded. "Then what's the plan, Captain?" Riker thought for a moment. "We let them attack." The officers stared at him in shock. "Let them?" Carter asked. "Are you saying we abandon the bases?" Riker shook his head. "No, we make them think we're weak. The Confederation expects us to fight a desperate battle, but instead, we'll lure them into a trap." He pointed at the holographic map. "We evacuate the bases before they arrive. Leave behind false transmissions and fake weapon signatures to make it look like we're still there. When they attack, they'll waste time fighting ghosts. And while they're distracted, we hit them where it hurts." A grin spread across Hayes' face. "You want to attack their command fleet while they're busy." Riker smirked. "Exactly." The plan was dangerous, but it was the best chance humanity had. The Earth Council approved it, and the orders were given. Human forces evacuated the bases, leaving behind traps, fake signals, and automated turrets to slow the Confederation down. Meanwhile, Riker and a small strike team prepared for their real mission, attacking the enemy command fleet. Days later, The Confederation's forces arrived at the abandoned bases. They fired their weapons, expecting resistance, but instead of real soldiers, they found empty bunkers, exploding traps, and misleading signals. Confused and frustrated, they wasted time searching for enemies who weren't there. At that moment, Riker and his fleet launched their attack on the Confederation's command ships. They struck hard and fast, targeting communication relays and power systems. The enemy, caught off guard, struggled to respond. Explosions lit up space as human ships moved like shadows, attacking from unexpected angles. The Confederation's admirals panicked. Their main fleet was in chaos, their forces scattered. They had been tricked. As the battle raged, Riker's voice rang through the comms. They thought they were hunting us. But today, we are the hunters. Humanity had turned the Confederation's own trap against them. The war was far from over, but this victory would shake the galaxy. The victory had been sweet, but Captain Riker knew the battle was far from over. The Confederation had been embarrassed, and there was no way they would let that go. They would strike back with everything they had. Riker's fleet had dealt a blow, but the Confederation was still the most powerful force in the galaxy. Back in the heart of the Confederation, Emperor Zorth was furious. His once proud fleet had been humiliated, and he was determined to make sure it never happened again. He stood in front of a huge holographic map of the galaxy, his sharp eyes scanning the movements of his ships. "We underestimated them," Zorth muttered, his voice cold with anger. "We thought they were weak, but the humans have something no other species has. They don't give up." Admiral Vornak stood beside him, awaiting his orders. "We need to crush them," Zorth continued. "We need to show the galaxy that no one can challenge the Confederation. Find their homeworld. Find Earth." "We have already searched for it, Your Majesty," Vornak replied. "But their defenses are strong, and we know they are not in one place. They keep moving their fleet, hiding their ships in unknown parts of space." Zoreth's expression darkened. "Then we will do it the old way. We'll burn their planet. We'll leave nothing behind." On Earth, Captain Riker and his officers were hard at work, trying to stay one step ahead of the Confederation. They knew the enemy would come for them again. They had no choice but to keep fighting. "This time, they won't make the same mistake," Lieutenant Hayes said, pacing the command center. "They've learned from their mistakes. They'll come at us with everything." Riker nodded. "We have to be ready for a full-scale attack. They've got a lot of firepower, but they'll make mistakes again. We just need to be smarter than they are." The humans had one advantage over the Confederation: their ability to think on their feet. Unlike the Clarks, who relied on brute strength and control, humans had learned to fight using strategy and unpredictability. The Earth Council held an emergency meeting. Riker was there, along with military leaders and scientists. The meeting was tense, with everyone aware of the danger they were in. "We can't just hide forever," General Carter said. "We need to strike at the Confederation again. Hit them hard. Force them to slow down." "I agree," Riker said, "but we need to know where to hit. We can't waste resources on random attacks. We have to find their weaknesses." "We've been studying their patterns," said a scientist, Dr. Elena Firth. "They are focused on one thing: Earth. If we can misdirect them, we might just have a chance." Riker's eyes lit up. "Misdirection," he said thoughtfully. "That's it. We make them think Earth is the last place we are. We create false signals, set up fake fleets. While they chase those, we'll launch a counterattack on their own home base." It was a risky plan, but if successful, it could change the course of the war. If they could draw the Confederation's attention away from Earth and strike their home base, it would give humanity a chance to turn the tide. The preparations began immediately. Earth's defenses were fortified, and the fleet began moving out, setting up the deception. The Confederation would soon realize that the humans were not as easy to catch as they thought. The Confederation had been tricked once again. Earth's defenses had been strengthened, and the fleet had scattered, leaving behind false signals to mislead the enemy. As Riker's plan unfolded, it became clear that humanity was no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. The Confederation, with all its power, was being outplayed. Emperor Zoreth paced back and forth in his command center, his anger growing with each passing minute. His fleet had chased false leads, wasted precious time, and now humanity was pulling off yet another dangerous trick. Zoreth had underestimated the humans, but he wouldn't make that mistake again. "They've made fools of us," Zoreth shouted, slamming his fist into the table. "Send everything we have. I want Earth found. Now." Admiral Vornak stood at attention, trying to stay calm. "We are already sending our fleets, but they are very clever, Your Majesty. The humans are using their old tactics. We cannot predict them." "I don't care about their tactics," Zoreth snapped. "I want them destroyed. Everything else can wait." Meanwhile, on Earth, Riker and his officers watched the unfolding situation with a mixture of caution and hope. The Confederation was chasing shadows, but Riker knew it was only a matter of time before they figured out the humans' real plan. "We've kept them busy, but it won't last forever," Riker said, his eyes scanning the map of the galaxy. "The Confederation will realize their mistake. When they do, we need to be ready for the final strike." Lieutenant Hayes nodded. "We've missiled them. Now it's time to hit them where it hurts." The plan was simple but dangerous. While the Confederation's fleet searched for Earth, Riker and his fleet would launch a direct assault on the Confederation's main home base, deep within their territory. If they could destroy the heart of the Empire, the Confederation would crumble. "We're taking a huge risk," General Carter said, his voice tight with concern. "Their home base is heavily guarded. We'll be outnumbered." Riker's face was calm. "We're humans. We've faced impossible odds before and come out on top. It's not about numbers. It's about how we fight." The human fleet set off toward the Confederation's heart, moving in secret and under cover of their decoy signals. As they neared the enemy base, the tension grew. This would be the final test. The Confederation had set up a powerful defense grid around their home base, expecting any enemy attack to come from a predictable direction. But humanity wasn't predictable. The humans approached from an unexpected angle, using an ancient strategy of surprise and speed. They attacked the defenses before they had a chance to respond, striking with precision and overwhelming force. The Confederation's forces scrambled to defend their home base, but it was too late. Riker and his fleet broke through the outer defenses, their ships darting in and out of enemy fire. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as human ships hit their targets. Power plants, communication hubs, and supply stations, one by one. Inside the Confederation's command center, panic spread. The Emperor watched helplessly as his empire's heart was torn apart. "They've reached the core," shouted Vornak. "We must stop them." But it was too late. The human ships continued their attack, and with a final devastating strike, Riker's fleet destroyed the Confederation's central command system. The Empire was paralyzed. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had struck at the very heart of the Confederation and shattered it. Back on Earth, Riker stood in the command center, watching the explosions in space. It wasn't over yet, but humanity had won a crucial victory. The Confederation's empire had been dealt a blow from which it might never recover. "We've done it," Riker said, his voice steady. "Now we just need to finish what we started." The Confederation was broken. Their central command had been destroyed, their fleets scattered, and their empire was in chaos. Emperor Zoreth, once proud and powerful, had lost everything. But even in his defeat, he was dangerous. The war wasn't over yet. The Confederation's forces, though weakened, were still out there. But humanity had done what no one thought possible. They had brought down a galactic empire. Back on Earth, the mood was one of cautious victory. Captain Riker stood in front of a large screen, watching the galaxy map as the human fleet moved into position. Their final mission was clear: finish the war once and for all. The Confederation may be broken, But they're not finished, Riker said, his voice calm but firm. They still have power, and they'll fight to the end. We need to strike fast. General Carter nodded. We've lost a lot of ships, Captain. We're stretched thin. But we're not alone. The galaxy has seen what the Confederation has done, and now they know what humanity can do. We have allies, and they're ready to fight with us. Riker turned to the map. That's right. We've made a lot of enemies, but we've made some allies too. This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about the whole galaxy. Across the galaxy, the news of humanity's victory had spread like wildfire. Many planets that had been under the Confederation's control saw an opportunity to break free. Rebel forces from various species reached out to Riker's fleet, offering their support. With their newfound allies, humanity began the final campaign. Riker's fleet, alongside the rebel forces, made a final push toward the Confederation's remaining strongholds. The battles were fierce, but the humans and their allies fought with everything they had. The Confederation's forces were spread thin, and their once mighty warships fell one by one. Riker and his team led the charge, pushing deeper into Confederate territory. It wasn't easy, and many lives were lost along the way. But the end was in sight. In the final battle, Riker faced Zorath. The Emperor, though desperate, still held the last remnants of his power. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, determined to die fighting rather than surrender. Captain Riker, Zorath said over the comms, his voice cold and full of hatred, "You've cost me everything, but I will not bow to you." Riker stood tall as he spoke. "You didn't defeat us, Zorath. You gave us the strength to fight back. You may have been a great empire, but you never understood what it meant to never give up. And that's why we won." The final battle was brutal. Zorath's flagship fired everything it had, but the human fleet was relentless. Riker's ship, the U.S. Ironclad, led the charge, dodging fire and returning it with precise strikes. The Confederation flagship finally fell, its engines exploding in a massive fireball. With Zorath's death, the last of the Confederation's power crumbled. The human fleet, now supported by their allies, swept through the remaining Confederate forces. The war was over. Back on Earth, the celebrations began. It had been a long and bloody conflict, but humanity had won. They had proven themselves to the galaxy as the most feared and respected species. Riker stood on the Earth's surface, looking up at the sky. For the first time in years, there was peace. "We did it," Riker said quietly. But it wasn't just about fighting. It was about showing the galaxy that we never give up. And that's what makes humanity unstoppable.